Welcome to another episode of the Chris Sands Insights and Strategy Podcast, your go-to source for real-world practical knowledge and advice you can apply to your personal life, maybe your business, and your finances. I'm your host, Chris Sands, and in every episode, you can expect to come away with at least 2 insights and at least 1 strategy that you can apply or implement in your life to create a positive impact. In today's episode, we're honored to have David Finette and Joe Freilich from Crown Card Services, a dental practice merchant service provider changing the way practices do business, increasing profitability and practice value. Now, in full disclosure, I am a co-founder and partner in Crown Card Services. Also a co-founder and partner in Profi, I found an issue with our own credit card processing. I saw our rates increasing over time, could not make any sense of it, changed merchant providers. A few years later, things increased again. Started to do a little digging and found out that there is no regulation in this strange industry of credit card processing. So decided for myself that there had to be a better way. And if there's a better way for me, that means there's a better way for our clients. I decided to search and seek out some of the best in the credit card processing industry with a strong back office, strong systems in place to support our business and our clients' businesses, and thus Crown Card Services was born.
Was born, yes.
So Dave, Joe, super excited to finally have you guys in our office on the podcast. Thanks for being here. If you don't mind, say hello to everybody out there and tell them a little bit about yourselves, a little bit about your history in this crazy industry of merchant processing.
Well, first and foremost, Chris, it's always great to see you. It's great to come to your office. You got the coolest office in town, by the way. Your studio is amazing. Your team is great, and we're excited to be here. Joe.
Yes, sir. I am very grateful to be here, Chris. Beautiful office, beautiful studio. A little bit about myself. Been in the industry for 17 years. Been helping both merchant clients and partner clients alike in this crazy world we call merchant services for that time, and really enjoy it. Really enjoy making, helping people, building relationships, and excited to continue our great partnership.
So, guys, more specifically, I mean, we most of our podcast listeners are dentists, private business owners, and everybody has to have a merchant processor. They have to process credit cards somehow. We're just trying to solve an old problem that's existed for probably a long time and do it in a better way. For everyone listening, tell us a little bit about your personal experience of history. Like, how did you get into the industry? What are some of the things you saw early on, and what you liked or didn't like about the industry? What have been some of the hurdles and things that you've overcome in client relationships, and how has that molded your service offering today?
Well, that's a great question. Joe, take that.
To answer your question, how I got into the industry, I answered a Craigslist ad.
That tells you how long you've been in it.
That's
right?
Exactly right. I was explaining this to a college student a little while ago, and he didn't know what Craigslist was, so it made me feel old. I got a degree in golf management, realized that wasn't for me, answered a Craigslist ad, and here we are 17 years later. As far as what's changed and what my experience has been, when I first got in, it was seen as a very shady industry, right? There was a lot of shady things being done by salesmen, and that was that's not who I was, and luckily the company that I worked for was not like that at all. But I really tried to build my career on honesty and integrity, doing what's right. I believe honesty is the best policy. So, really trying to take care of the merchant clients and our partners and build that relationship. Because like we talked about, relationships is key.
So do you think that shadiness still exists in the industry?
I think there is still some of it. I think, when you can increase rates and not have to tell your merchants, or maybe you just put a little statement message in there, but who reads that? I think there is still some of that. I don't believe in it. I believe in honesty and transparency, and then that's what I stand for.
So one of the insights that I learned from you guys, which was kind of parallel to our business, the tax and accounting business and Profi, is this true that the rates historically are changed on businesses around the same time as tax time, April and October.
After being in this industry for 25 years, I'm starting to see monthly changes with these corporations now. They're charging non-PCI compliant fees. Used to be $20. Now we're seeing $150 on some of our practices. These larger processors, these larger organizations are becoming more aggressive than ever. It used to be twice a year. It used to be spring release and fall release is when these processors will make these rate changes. But now we're starting to see these changes on a monthly basis.
Wow.
All of a sudden, they're coming up with new fees every other month.
So it's more than just the rate. There's like
absolutely
new fees.
There's other fees.
Oh, absolutely.
And it really stems from the idea that business owners don't necessarily focus on their merchant services every month. They don't look at the statements. So,
I'll be honest with you. The industry makes it really difficult.
They do.
When I was with one of the banks and had my merchant services through them, and they were a great bank that helped us, get our business started. When I decided to take a look at it, they said, you're not registered. You don't have a login for this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I log into my business banking every day. I would think I should be able to access it through here. It's a totally different, hidden website that the gentleman who set us up never told us about, never got us even a login. I'd never looked at a statement. And it one extra layer of difficulty to even see what you're paying for.
Chris, if you know it best. In most cases, 60 to 70% of a practice's business or a business's business is typically credit card processing.
Without a doubt, yep.
And you're moving money. I think that's the most important. That keeps the business alive, right? It's almost like the blood of the business. What we're finding here is, as we know, nobody looks at their merchant statement. And we know that 60 to 70% of their revenue is going through this merchant account. And they're treating their statements just like an electric bill. And without their notice, these processes are monthly raising these different fees, and then they're not taking a look at it. And thanks to the accountant, Chris is uncovering this stuff. He's seeing it. And we're making these practices aware of these different fees that are impacting their business over time. We call it the slow leak. An extra $20 a month at the end of the year is $240.
Yeah, and typically the relationship between accountants and merchant services guys, there wasn't a great relationship there. And what we're doing is really changing that. They typically in the past had kind of been totally different personalities, different types of people, and honestly, the business owner knew their accountant, they didn't know their merchant guy. And what we're trying to do is change that. What we're doing with Profi and Crown Card is changing that and having a more symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. Chris, you were asking about fees. And we got to talk about fees for a minute, because they were being changed twice a year. They're being changed monthly now. So the days of waiting, for the spring release or fall release is over. These processes are changing these fees monthly.
Yeah, let's talk specifically about what some of those fees are, because Joe, to your point, I will say that as accountants, we can live in a little bit of ignorant bliss. Like, this is a standard expense item, whatever your merchant processing fees are, that goes on the profit and loss statement. But once I realized that it could be changed, I call it a profit maximizer. This is something that if you change, like in dentistry, and this is the big part of why I think it's so important in dentistry. In dentistry, it's actually a fairly simple business model. There's only, I have been saying, there's only 3 variable costs, in dentistry, costs that change. The rest of them are fixed. Well, really now I say there's 4. Okay, so the first initial 3 were doctor pay, so the doctors are paid on some percentage of what they produce. Labs and supplies. So the labs and supplies and the doctor pay will all change with how much dental production they're doing. Well, if they're doing more dental production, they're likely doing more dental collection, and so those things are all percentage costs. And this 4th one, merchant services fees and percentages, it's variable. And the fact that percentage variation changes without them knowing is alarming. But then to do the math on it and say, if I'm paying 2% of my gross revenue is going to merchant service fees, if I could claw back half of that, 1%, or maybe all of it, depending on what kind of program I put into my office. If you have $1 million practice, 2% is $20,000 a year. If you have a $3 million practice, now you're talking $60,000 a year. And those are the practices that we deal with the most. You know, practices over 1.5. One of the early ones, the one I worked in, I mean, we kind of did the first analysis, and they were doing like 10 or 11 million in revenue. The savings was like over 120,000 a year. It's undeniable that they had to make a change, and who knows how long they were getting, ripped off, right? So, what are some of those? In addition to the percentage, what are some of those junk fees that are baked in? I know the big one I want you to educate everybody on is PCI compliance. Like, they hear it. That's the one that we do see. We don't know these other fees, but the PCI compliance is like, you do it on the initial setup, and just as the business owner, you're like, okay, check, it's done, I'm moving on. And then a year later, oh, you gotta do your PCI compliance again. Like, what is this? How do I do it? How do I answer it? I get no help with it. I'll deal with it later. And later turns into never. And now you're paying this PCI fee, and you don't even know it.
Chris, I'm so glad that you're focusing on this, and I want to be fair to PCI. PCI is...
What does it stand for, first of all?
Good question. PCI is Payment Card Industry. They're standards that the card brands have established to keep all of our card data safe. Right. And it's a good thing.
For consumer protection.
Absolutely. Right. And it is a good thing, and it's gotten a bad rap. And the reason why it's gotten a bad rap is because nobody talks about it. And I'm glad that you are talking about it, because it's important from a security standpoint. I do want to make sure we highlight that and don't forget the importance of that. But right behind that, these larger processors are using PCI as an opportunity to generate revenue on behalf of the merchant.
Let me ask you this question. Is there any regulation on what a PCI non-compliance fee can be, or can it be different per provider?
That's the I'm not going to say beauty of our industry, but that is part of the industry, right? There is no regulation there. So one company could charge a non-compliance fee of $19.99 a month. Well, another company could charge $50 a month. And there is no rhyme or reason. It's whatever they feel like. You could even see two clients with the same processor. One pays $19.99, one pays $29.99, another pays $40.99. It varies, and that's where a lot of the frustration stems from. You mentioned earlier how statements aren't easy to read, and that's partially by design, I'm sure, because it makes it harder for the business owner to really understand what they're paying. And that's where we like to come in and serve and educate and show these business owners, show these doctors what they're paying, how we can help, and what that looks like for their business.
Even if they're aware of it, Chris, right? Who knows how to answer these questions? Who's helping them through it, right? They know how to put a crown into somebody's mouth, right? But they have no idea what these questions are. So it's like, okay, let's make them aware of it. Okay, they're aware of it. Now it's time to actually answer the questions. Who's walking them through it? Who has an extra 2 hours a month?
I can tell you on the first 3 relationships I had, each time I got excited that somebody was saving me new money, got me signed up, and then I never saw or heard from them again.
Whoa.
Not once a year, not at all, right? And so, yeah, I agree. I was like, who do I talk to about this? And I lost the person's number that met with me.
1-800 number that you would have to call and wait on hold. Yep.
Yeah.
So, and speak to somebody that you've never spoke to before, that has no idea who you are. It's almost parallel to the dentist model, right? You have to have a relationship with your dental practice, same way you have to have a relationship with your merchant guy. So
are there any other fees besides PCI compliance that are super common that we don't know about?
There are a bunch, and it gets back to the idea that no two processors are the same. So one processor could call something a account service fee, and they could have a monthly statement fee, and they could have another random fee, and you could look at another statement and they could be called totally different things. All they are just junk fees that they're adding in there because they can, and because they know people don't notice them. And so it's, $10 a month for one business, not a ton of money. But when you have 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 all paying that, that's a big revenue source for that processor, right? And they're just junk fees. That's all they are.
So a lot of hidden costs.
A lot of them.
Yeah, I think another big one, or I know another big one, and what we're finding and we're seeing is these insurance companies are now paying with these digital credit card transactions.
Hot topic. Yeah, let's talk about that, please.
Well, there's a lot of card not present transactions going on in practices now more than ever.
Right.
So card not present means, was it taken over the phone?
There you go,
Taken
Chris.
over the phone, taken online. Any time that the card is keyed in, it's viewed as a card not present transaction.
Okay.
If it's not dipped or tapped or swiped, if that's the case.
Which is viewed as a higher risk transaction, which comes
fraud.
along with higher fees and higher rates, which a lot of practices are unaware of that. And more importantly, there's a specific way to capture a card not present transaction that 8 out of 10 business owners, let's not just focus on dental practices. 8 out of 10 business owners are totally unaware of the fact that you have to put in address verification, known as AVS, to properly clear a card not present transaction so that it clears at the lowest interchange rate. If you look at a statement and you see non-qualifying fees, that means those transactions are being improperly processed, card not present.
And those cost the business more.
Cost the business more. We're talking anywhere from 0.25% to a full percent.
Absolutely.
So do you train dental offices that, as much as you can, you want to capture the card in person in the office? Is that a big part of it?
Well, the market has changed. And I believe COVID has changed those behaviors. Historically, we would process a transaction at the practice. Now we're collecting payments through a text message, through a website, over the phone, or card on file, right?
Yeah.
And so if it's through the website and the patient, the customer, they fill out the credit card info, that is not the same as card not present. Card not present is the employee of the business.
It's still technically card not present, but there are ways to implement, to David's point, to implement that address verification so that you do get it cleared at the lowest possible rate,
Nice.
right?
Okay.
It's not just putting a card number in and maybe an expiration date, maybe a CVV code, and then sending it off. You want to get the address, you want to be able to verify, and this all happens on the back end, right?
Sure.
In seconds, but it verifies that that address, that zip code matches that card number, and that's a more secure transaction.
Got it.
Chris, we're talking about something that's very important, and the reason why it's very important because the trends and behaviors have changed. They're no longer card present transactions where a practice was used to seeing 1.8, 1.9 effective rate. Now that 40-50% of some of our practices are now taking card not present, which is pushing their effective rate up to 2.5%, 3%. And if it's improperly processed, the processor says, oh, that's a great opportunity to charge them a non-qualifying fee.
Okay. So there is some responsibility on the business to try to collect payments in the most effective way possible to keep these costs down.
Well, Chris, you don't know what you don't know. And if there's not an individual or an organization supposed to be your processor to educate you on the front end on how to properly process transactions, how to avoid chargebacks, how to handle situations as it relates to card transactions. What people are used to, or what has been historically serviced, is they sign them up and you never hear from them, see from them again. Who's reviewing their first month statement? Who's doing an annual review, a quarterly review?
So I want to talk about these reviews and if or why they're important. You mentioned a buzzword, which was effective rate. And what does that mean? So, if you will, speak a little bit about what's the difference between not every business, every dental practice is going to have the same effective rate. Why is that? The types of cards they take and all that. We speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, so let's start at the basics. The effective rate, it's the simplest way to know what you're paying every month in credit card. It's the total amount of fees that you paid for a month divided by the total volume. of cards that you took, right? That gives you an overall blended rate. Typically what we'll say is if someone's under 2.75%, they're probably doing all right. If they're over, there's probably some issues that we can help with. Obviously we'd love to get them down even lower. We see a lot of our practices down in the 2.3, 2.4% rate. The ones that are higher, they're taking more what we call card not present transactions, whether that be online or via text to pay, or they're having patients call in, right? Those are the more expensive transaction, the less secure transaction. So that's what's going to affect that effective rate. But again, a good barometer is 2.75%. If you're under that, probably okay. Still maybe room for savings. We'd love to talk, but over that, you definitely want to have someone take a look and see if they can help you out.
But is the effective rate impacted by the type of rewards card?
Absolutely.
So American Express versus the other big three, or whatever,
Absolutely.
So speak a little bit about that, because I think if there's a practice that's in maybe a highly affluent area, some of the stuff that we talk about in dentistry, a highly affluent area is going to have a higher dental IQ, so it means that they have better oral hygiene. They
more awareness. Yes.
They should not need as much crazy extensive care. An area
preventive. Yes.
Right. An area that is maybe more impoverished. They're going to be probably not having the higher end rewards cards that have an annual fee on it. So can you speak a little bit to that? Because I think that's one of the most confusing things, because it seems like it's unfair from the business owner, from the doctor's point of view. Why should I be impacted on my rate based on my patient base and what kind of credit card they have? But that is the reality of
Absolutely.
How this works.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. The higher end rewards cards, your American Express, your Visa Signature cards, your World MasterCards, those types of cards have higher rates, and those are set by the card brands.
Which it seems unfair, but when you logically think about it, you're like, they're collecting a higher rate because at some point they have to pay out these rewards back to the consumer. Right?
Exactly right. So they have those higher rewards they got to get paid for somehow.
So they charge the business.
So they charge more, and that money goes to the card brands, the card issuers, the ones that are your Capital One, your Bank of America's, your Chase. They're the ones that are issuing the rewards to their customers, which are in this case the patients with the cards. So yes, where a practice is located will affect its effective rate. In addition to the way they take payments, whether it's in person or more over the phone.
Yeah, Chris, and that's what I love about working with you, is you're always keen on the trends and behaviors. There's not a one-size-fits-all merchant account. And actually taking the time, and a lot of business owners will ask, well, why do you need my statement? Well, I need to understand the card trends and behaviors. How are these transactions clearing? How are you taking these cards? Are there areas of opportunity to train the front staff how to properly take these transactions? So, spending that quality time ends up building the relationship, and the clients that do it operate better, have a better experience, not just from a savings perspective. We're always talking about savings, but just from an overall perspective. I mean, again, they know who their banker is. They know who their accountant is. Who the heck is the merchant guy?
Don't know the merchant guy.
Who's the merchant guy, Chris?
Like you said, what you're saying about accountants and merchant relationships?
What's that?
They're the ones that either control or touch or see the money. Like they're like two of the most.
No, they're your best friends, right? The accountant, the merchant guy, and we'll throw the banker in there just to be cool to the bankers. But really, it's the accountant and the merchant guys. And I think you said it earlier. Historically, accountants and merchant guys never really played together. And it's an interesting experience. It's eye-opening what we've learned being around you, Chris.
Well, tell me, the other hottest topic in dentistry right now is a new way of doing things, and it potentially could eliminate a lot of this, right? But it comes with its own difficulties and complexities.
Absolutely.
And what we're talking about, industry terminology, is called a compliance surcharge program. So that is something I think that's being discussed more and more. I know that once, all of this stuff, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once
you put the toothpaste back in the tube.
I was once, in that naive, ignorant bliss. And now I've seen it, and I can't unsee it. I see these charges being passed on to consumers. You see it at the gas station, you see it at restaurants, you kind of see it everywhere. And now it's becoming a hotter topic in dentistry as well. And certainly they feel during COVID and since COVID, there's been a big squeeze on their profit margins with all of their costs across the board. So what is this surcharge? How does it work? What's your experience with it, or how do you see people reacting to it?
Yeah, let's drop the word compliant for a second. Let's just talk about the idea of a surcharge. And it's just an extra percentage, sometimes 3%. We've seen up to 4%. I've seen up to 5% on a credit card transaction. That's the idea. When we get into start throwing the word compliant in there, that means that it should only be charged on a credit card transactions. Debit cards, check cards should not be charged. And so what we're seeing is a lot of non-compliant surcharging, where any plastic payment is hit with that surcharge.
Oh, is that a fact? People are actually charging that extra upcharge to debit cards?
And it's partially because they don't know any different, right? The business owner, they're not the expert on this. They do. Someone tells them.
Well,
hey,
and here's the other important thing for if you're listening: the business owner is not at the front desk; they're in the back, drilling and filling, and they don't know what the heck's going on in the front of how we're collecting the payment. So it's actually like the front desk is actually your gateway, to the money, and if they're not trained properly, they could be doing this.
Well, it's less about how they're trained, and more about who they're working with, and their merchant processor should be setting them up on a compliant surcharge. And if they're setting them up on a non-compliant surcharge, that leaves the business open to potential fines from the card brands.
Well, I have to speak up. I just don't think it's fair. How come the business owner's the one left with the buck? He doesn't know what he doesn't know. There should be some repercussion for the processor not explaining or doing their due diligence to educate the client. It's not fair. The processor does the misstep, yet the client's the one who gets dinged with the non-PCI compliant fee, the one that gets dinged the non-qualifying fees for not. But they don't know what they don't know, and that is exactly what's going on in this compliant surcharge situation right now. And you opened up the podcast with there's no regulation in this business, and we're talking about people's money. I think that's the industry that needs to be most regulated. The banks are regulated. Why are the merchant processing coming? We might want to take that one out. We don't need anybody coming for it.
Well, so speak more to this. What is what's the penalty? First of all, if somebody
fines,
what can they be?
The fines from the card brands, $500, $1,000, $1,500. It depends on the number of infractions and the card brand. I don't want to go too deep into that, but just know that there are fines. But the way we operate, full transparency with our clients is that, hey, we can set up a surcharge for you. It is becoming very popular. To your point, COVID, I think has accelerated that, but we're seeing it across many different sectors, from, service jobs like electricians and plumbers to restaurants. It's becoming more and more common. So as that becomes more and more common, consumers get more comfortable with it, and it expands into other industries. And we're really, really seeing it expand in the dental world, in the medical world in general, just because the consumer is more comfortable, so the practices are more comfortable. The way it's supposed to be set up, and the way we do it with the compliant surcharge, is that only credit cards are charged that, let's call it 3% surcharge. If someone uses a debit card, or we call it a check card transaction as well, there is no surcharge. And that is how it is supposed to be set up per the regulations from the card brands.
And are you required to post any kind of public notice in the office?
Correct. You do have to have signage that credit card transactions are charged a 3% surcharge or whatever it is, to let your customers know, your patients know, that they can pay another way. They can pay with a debit card, which most people carry, and not have that surcharge.
And so this, whatever that rate might be, 3%, let's say, that wipes out all of their potentially. I mean, it wipes out the vast majority of all credit card transaction processing costs to the business owner. Passes them on effectively to the consumer.
Yeah, and I want to be clear that it's capped at 3%. It used to be.
Okay, that's good to know.
Well, and I also want to say this: it's moving every day. Every day they're changing the rules and regulations as it relates. Visa, the card brands, they do not like this program, right? So they're moving the out of bounds lanes on a daily basis, and it changes. And who's keeping up with that? And then who's taking the time to call their 20,000 clients to make them aware of, hey guys, it's no longer 3.5%. It's 3% now.
Like I said, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And after I learned this, all of a sudden I started picking up on it in the news. Like there's actually, if you actually Google this, there's a lot of legal proceedings happening amongst the big ones. And my understanding, American Express is its own separate deal, and then you have the Visa, MasterCard, and who's the third? Discover.
Yeah.
They're all kind of like banded together, and there's a lot of headlines about them fighting this.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not going away. Some states have banned it, right? It's something that could be changed tomorrow if your state legislation wants to stop it. So it is something that you need to keep abreast of, but also something that we find helping a lot of practices.
So we've talked about all the bad side of the compliance surcharge. What's some of the good that it's creating for businesses?
Cash flow. 2 words, cash flow. It is a way to help get profits.
One of my favorite phrases.
Yeah, I know. Well, we learned it from you.
Cash is not king. Cash flow is king.
Yeah,
Cash flow
right.
is king, for sure. Let's just say they're processing $100,000 a month, and they're paying, again, we'll use the 2.75. That's $2,750 a month that they're paying to have to be able to accept credit cards, right?
To collect money.
That's not going anywhere, right? The card brands aren't going to say, all right, you know what, we'll do it for free. That's not going to happen. So how can you offset some of that? Well, the compliance surcharge, you can offset most of it. Some people will pay with debit cards. They will pay with an alternate form of payment, a check, a cash, or whatever. But the ones that use credit cards, let's call it maybe of that $2,750, maybe it's $2,500. You're going to get all of that back. That's not money now that's going out. That's money that's just staying with the practice. So we're increasing the cash flow. It really is a business decision, but we're seeing a lot more businesses choose to do it.
And if somebody does it, they don't have to enforce it on everyone, or they can take it back like at some point, right? Like meaning like it's not a forever thing.
Correct. It's something that they can say they maybe they do it for a couple months and realize, hey, our patients are really not happy about this. Right. We want to turn it off. Totally fine. We can certainly do that, but it's something that we're seeing a lot of practices go to and not go back.
And I think it's probably important to talk about like how to, in a most effective way, position this to the customer, client, patient base. Of it's really, if you pay with a debit card, check, or cash, you get a 3% discount. Right, or I know there's probably is there some regulation around this and what you can say?
That's actually a different type of program that's called a cash discount. Then you got to change your pricing and all that. It's a lot more complicated for the business owner. So the compliance surcharge is the easiest way to do it, and you don't necessarily have to explain it as much anymore because it is so common. People are used to it now. You're used to seeing a surcharge for credit cards, so it's less about explaining it to them and more about making them aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah. The compliance surcharge program is the perfect fit for dental practices. And the reason why is because 60 to 70% of their transactions are actually credit card transactions. They say if it's $100 or more, people are typically putting that on a credit card. If it's $100 or less, it's a high likelihood it could be a check card or a debit card. So for most dental practices, 70% of their transactions are credit card transactions. And most people carry a debit card and a credit card. The fear has always been, I don't want to rub my patient the wrong way. Well, hey, Delta Airlines is doing it. They're charging us baggage fees, It's fair. It's appropriate. As long as you give me an opportunity to pay with another form, it's fair. And there's practices and there's processing companies out there that are doing it out of compliance, and they're charging everybody, no matter what payments they use. So the compliant surcharge program is a great fit for dental practices. It gives their patients the opportunity to pay with another form of payment.
Okay, so I gotta say, the thing that needs to be captured for the business owners listening is whatever savings there are, whether you do a compliant surcharge program or not, if it's a savings based on your rate changing if it's a savings based on implementing this surcharge program, you need to understand this is more than just savings. It's more than just cash flow. I mean, it is real cash flow. It could be thousands of dollars per month. But more than that, and I think the part that they don't give enough credit to is I'm in the business of building dental practice value. Okay. And how is a dental practice valued? It's always valued on profitability, cash flow, and if you're working in the world of corporate dentistry or selling to corporate dentistry at all, to private equity, then you have to know the word EBITDA. And EBITDA is a really like a true cash flow. All of this is dropping from the very top line all the way to the very bottom line instantly. And if you're aware and educated on what kind of multiplier your EBITDA might trade on, let's say a dental practice has an 8x multiplier of their EBITDA. If because of this program, we're saving, let's say on the low end, let's say we're saving $30,000 a year with a compliance surcharge program on a small practice, if it's got an 8x EBITDA, that's $240,000 it's $250,000 of practice value added, at the point of sale, right? Now you expand that, you've got a practice doing $3 million a year, so they're doing $250,000 a month in revenue, whatever that,
I'm not going to do the math.
2% might be. Well, it's probably so that's what, $5,000, so $60,000 in that example. Again, times 8, $480,000, almost $500,000. Real money value. Money. So I can't understand why someone would not explore this for themselves. And even if you're like, I don't want to explore that. If you're ever thinking about selling at all, we always coach, you should plan your business for sale from day one with the end in mind, because exit planning is good business strategy in itself. Trying to make your business best in class value. But if you're not going to do that, and you're thinking, well, I'm getting near retirement, or I think I want out of this, we always say the last 3 years matter the most. If it was me, I can't unsee what I've seen. If it was me, knowing what I know, certainly the last 3 years, I would go heavy and go all in on the compliance surcharge program, because you're creating that EBITDA that's now going to trade at a multiplier effect.
And it's quick. It's a flip of a switch, really, right? It's a quick.
Realize it in 30 days.
Yeah,
30 days you realize that savings impacts the practice significantly.
Private practices have to know that DSOs are constantly doing anything they can to manipulate a fraction of a percentage point of cost going to the bottom line in profit and EBITDA, because those private equity firms are looking to flip their book of practices to another private equity firm the same way that we're coaching you to do it. If you don't do it, a DSO, if you sell to a DSO, if you don't do this, they're going to do it themselves. They're going to reap the benefits of it. Why not you do it and get paid for it?
100%, yeah. And even if you're not looking to sell, maybe you're just getting started, or maybe you're
gosh, the start. Yeah, everybody needs every penny they can get.
Think about what else you can do. Let's call it $3,000 a month. What else can you do with that $3,000 a month? A lot.
Well, I'll tell you too. Like, dentistry is so debt heavy, they need that extra cash flow to get out of this debt.
There you
more
go.
Quickly.
So you can consolidate debt and pay it off faster with that money. You can use it to buy new equipment. Let's say it's a great practice with no debt. Well, now they have $3,000 more per month. Maybe they can go buy a new piece of equipment and finance that over 12 months instead of 48.
Oh wow, that's going to be an interesting exercise. So if somebody needs to buy a cone beam, which is a 3D X-ray machine, and it's $80,000. They run an analysis on this and find out they'd save $80,000 a year just on a compliance surcharge, and they've paid for their cone beam without having to change any of their revenue or cash flow.
Right.
Well, that's exactly why it's picking up steam, because more and more practices, more and more businesses are doing it, as you mentioned it. And it's just, I don't want to use the term, it's a no-brainer, but it's a no-brainer. It's saving practices in a lot of cases. And now that more and more practices are doing it, more and more practices are comfortable doing it. We're seeing our portfolio change rapidly from the traditional. We're flipping them on a daily basis. We're getting phone calls with, we planted that seed a couple of months ago, and now they're coming around to doing it because they're seeing their colleagues and other practices within the market doing it. So I propose if you do it, make sure you do it right, and make sure you do it with the right people. That's very important. And make sure you have a relationship with that person. Same relationship you have with the accountant and the bankers. They've been getting your attention for years. It's time to give some attention to your merchant guy, you know?
Well, Dave, I want to shift gears a little bit. Something that you brought to me, I didn't think of with co-bundling it with a merchant service offering. You do a little bit more than just helping people with their credit card processing. Talk a little bit about this concept, this idea you've given me of digital signage. I know that's something that may have been very easily or more easily accepted, maybe in a restaurant industry, helping them, advertise in the moment to who's in front of them, what all they offer. Dentistry doesn't do enough of that, and we talked a little bit about you pay the same rent. When I worked in a Macy's department store in college when we would have fall or winter breaks. And I remember being trained, about how that department store, every square inch of it was calculated to what was its revenue producing ability. What was that space, that square footage doing to produce or to what's the right word, to advertise or suggest it, to create some sort of
That's why retail stores will move around. They'll change.
That's
the way
game
things
in
are set
retail,
up.
right?
Yep.
So in a dental office, we have some unused space. Talk a little bit about your ideas or what you've even implemented in dental offices with this digital signage.
Yeah, I'd like to pass this to Joe, but before I pass this to Joe, we've been successful in putting these digital signage boards within gas stations, grocery stores, got them in airports now, we've even got them in restaurants. So this digital signage has been very successful in these other businesses. And I want to give a lot of credit to Joe because Joe really started formulating the way that we're going to go to market with this. And Joe, I'd like to turn it to you and just kind of share your vision on what we're doing. And we plan on doing more.
Exactly. I appreciate it. Dental practices have space where customers are sitting, patients are sitting and waiting. It's called a waiting room. Well, you have their attention. They're there for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Why not have a screen that's going to not only highlight services that you offer. We see a lot of practices that are offering more than just standard dental service. They have a med spa, or maybe they're doing Invisalign or other services that they want to advertise.
So I'll list a few. So you mentioned, clear aligners, or Invisalign is one brand of clear aligners. There's definitely the med spa thing, I assume. So there's a lot of now Botox and facial aesthetics that's entered the dental space. Sleep, apnea and sleep prevention in dentistry is another huge one that people, the face you're making, Dave, you didn't know that.
No, right? I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, so there's a lot of airway research, okay, and a lot of doctors are studying this and they're practicing it on patients, but they're not doing a great job of advertising it.
Or making them aware, right?
Correct.
Making them aware of it.
That's exactly what this is going to do. It's going to make, let your patients know, hey, I can get these services from my dentist. But also you can educate. You can use it as a tool to show your patients the right way to do things, brush their teeth, or maybe if you're an oral surgeon, maybe you want to highlight some of the post-op procedures that your patients should do. And just on a scrolling basis, right? This is a digital sign that can change. You think of like a billboard that's stagnant. This is not stagnant. It can change. You can update it. And then if you really wanted to get into it, depending on your location, you can use it as a revenue source as well. If there are businesses in your area, maybe you're in a strip mall and you have restaurants there that may want to advertise in your office. Maybe they want to say, hey, if you go to Chris's dental practice and you see our ad on the thing, scan this QR code for a $5 off coupon. And now as a dental practice, you can charge for that service. That's a marketing expense for that restaurant. Helps drive patients.
So I would say too, I am a fan of most dental practices trying to pull as many procedures under their roof as they can and not referring out. But there are certainly specialists who are trained to do some of the more deep and heavy, procedures. But if you're going to be referring out to that office, under the laws in dentistry, you cannot share in the revenue if it's referred out. However, this is a great way to say, you know what, we would like to always refer to your oral surgery practice or to your orthodontics practice.
Would you like
and
to
we'd,
throw
and we'd
your
actually like
ad
to
on it?
advertise you.
Yeah.
However, I'd like you to sponsor and pay for that advertising in our office and be able to recoup some of that.
That's exactly it. It can go. You can go from a blank wall that you're just paying for to a screen on that wall that helps you pay for the whole building's rent. That's turn that blank wall into a revenue source.
Fantastic. Anything else on that topic?
No, we hit a lot. We hit
Okay.
good. That's good. And it's new, so I don't want to hit too hard on it, you know. But I want to start easing into it for sure.
Okay. The stuff under additional solutions, did we pretty much cover that?
Hey, I think we've talked so much about saving. We talked so much about what's wrong. I really want to talk about technology and the importance of leveraging technology that we can bring to the table.
So we're going to do technology, and then what's our close? Okay, so how do we wrap this up? And then at the wrap, I will say, you know,
Can I say this real quick? Because before I lose it, is if you don't have a relationship with your merchant guy, you don't know his first name and his last name, then I think you need to find one or something like that. You know, something like because we know 7 out of 10 people don't know who their merchant. If your merchant guy is not on speed dial, and you can't get in touch with them, then I think you're a prime candidate to talk to Crown Card Services. You know, I don't know. I'm just telling you.
well, we got all that on tape. We're going to use some of that. But I do want you to say that way, kind of naturally. But so
I don't like speed dial because that implies that there's issues and they're always calling you. Let's say if you don't know their first and last name.
Yeah. Okay.
There you
Okay.
go.
well, do you still put your phone number?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, you got to say that.
Personal number.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing. So at some point, I'm gonna say so. Guys, can't thank you enough for being on the podcast today. I want to have you back at some point. Tell the folks out there how they can reach you. Okay, so we've got the website, so crowncardservices.com. I didn't send this to y'all, but I have the email addresses now.
Okay, great,
just so you
great.
get connected. But I think you should say something. You should say something like that. If you don't know the name of your merchant process, if you don't have a dedicated rep or a dedicated
If you
person,
don't have his mobile number stored in your phone,
yeah,
then you're a prime candidate.
you know, we pride ourselves on no 1-800 number, and on, as you're talking about the technology, weave that in and say on the back of every terminal, we put a phone number. And guess what? That's not a 1-800 number. That's a direct line.
Speaking to a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Okay. All right. So we just talked about the digital signage. Okay. So this digital signage thing, I think is the future, like next wave for a lot of dentistry to do a better job of advertising their services. Every now and then I'll see a practice that, you know, will at least play a video on a TV screen in the lobby. Sometimes it's advertising other services they have, but I would envision this too, just like not in a cheesy menu way, but it's just having some sort of menu and education on things that are offered by the practice that they may not be aware of. Let's wrap up on this technology. Can you tell us anything new and what's the latest and greatest in terminals and the way that you process? I'll tell you personally, I'm less of a fan of the traditional flow of a dental office where they come through the front door, sit in the lobby, go to the back, get their dentistry done, go to the front, and you're always saving that kind of that punch to the gut with this front checkout. And I think it's also a clog, especially for bigger practices, to be collecting all the money at one point up front can be a clog. So I'm personally a bigger fan of being able to collect the money in the chair, having a mobile terminal you can do right there. And I'm often telling practice owners that, you know, as they present treatment, they should ask for payment, and they don't feel good about that. In the most cases, the doctors hate talking about the money. They pass it on to either the office manager or they have a finance director, or they may call them like a treatment coordinator, and they talk the money. Well, whoever that person is, I'm of the belief system that, you know, right then and there, you've got a calendar. We can start throwing out some dates for when to meet next. And, would you like, especially if it's a large procedure, most practices, I think, are trained well to collect some portion of that up front in order to schedule that procedure. Sometimes it's 50%. And so you're really taking now this patient's temperature on how serious are they about getting this taken care of. And so sometimes there's some avoidance with that. But all that to say, I'm a bigger fan of they're in the chair, you've presented, they're either in pain or there's something that has been identified through X-rays and intraoral camera photos. There's a treatment plan that's presented. The moment is hot, and it's time to say, would you like to get this taken care of, and pull out the terminal and shut up, right? That's a salesperson's way of thinking of it, right? And in dentistry, they don't like to think that they're in sales, but we're all in sales. But can you speak to that? That used to not exist even. It used to all have to go to the front. And dentistry is even moving now where the X-ray machines are mobile. Have you seen those?
No, I haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, I forget the name of it right now, but there's a couple different brands. But instead of the X-ray being that arm that comes out, and you have to move to a specific room or chair, they now can walk around. It looks like a gun, like a little mobile gun. It looks like a power tool with a thing on the battery pack on the bottom. And they take the X-ray right then and there. It communicates through the Wi-Fi, I guess, goes straight to the file. Server, and then they can take that to the next room, and so they can move around with it.
It's technology, right? And we're in the technology business. We're in the financial technology business, and and it's all preference.
It's all about ease of business.
It is ease of business, and it's also preference on the practice on how they feel comfortable moving their patients through the process. But what if we could just take that whole payment experience out of the equation to where when you come to a practice, you're already paid for. It's paid for. No different than getting a movie ticket online and you go to the movies to watch the movie. You're not even thinking about standing in line to get a ticket to make payment. Same thing in the dental space. Let's eliminate that experience of payment, which is painful in itself, let alone whatever experience you're going to experience at the dental practice. Let's eliminate that by leveraging technology. Let's leverage our text to communicate, our text to engage platform to where you can collect payment, set the expectation. And then we feel it's a better experience for when the patient comes in. We're not talking about money. We're not talking about transactions. That's already done. And it's done on the front end. So that clearly helps the back end on chasing them down 6 months later, so
and if we're talking about co-payments and stuff that you're going to know ahead of time, right, before you get checked out by the doctor and may have other procedures, to your point, Chris, we have a feature with card on file where you can have your patients authorized. Maybe the upper limit is $50. Anything under $50, you're just going to run their card. You have their card on file, so you can skip for a routine visit. Someone comes in, they just have their the teeth cleaned, and maybe there's a $25 copay. They don't have to stop on the way out. Things like, yep, we're good. We have you on file. We'll take care of it. And it keeps, to your point, Chris, keeps them moving and not bogged down at the point of payment.
It's almost like stopping through a toll booth, right? You got to stop through the toll booth,
And you got the Easy Pass or what?
The Easy Pass.
It's called. But yeah, Chris, getting back to having mobile terminals, we can help with all of that. Having an office might only need one or two, right? They don't need to have one for every single room because you can just kind of move it around. But I like that idea of being able to just, especially for a deposit, something that you want to get commitment that they're going to come back for this large procedure. Bring that terminal right to them, not have them bogged down at the office.
Yep, higher frequency of pay.
Yep.
One more technology related. I can't believe we didn't stop to discuss this. Talk to us a little bit about.
Hold on, I got a good one.
I forgot my train of thought.
I want to say this. I want to say this about technology. Can I do a zinger? Because this is a good zinger. I'd like to keep this.
So open it that way. Say, I want to say this about technology.
Yeah, I want to say this about technology. Technology is good. We like technology. I've got in this business in 1999. They were little black boxes that collected credit cards. Now we've got these smart terminals that do all kind of stuff. They do more than just collect credit card payments. Technology is now in our space. You've got these integrated software vendors that are in the space providing technology, and technology is good. But those technology companies are just that. They're technology. They have no idea what a dispute is, a chargeback, a non-qualified transaction, a PCI. So we're seeing a lot of these.
I like where you're headed with this. Yeah, so these companies are now adding their merchant service as a additional benefit, ease of business, and they're the least experienced and
the most expensive,
likely the highest
the
rate.
most expensive.
There is a cost for that bundled, right? So that is one of the biggest hurdles or objections or questions that I hear for sure. Talk a little bit about the ability of Crown Card right now to integrate with practice management softwares.
Integration is good. We support integration. We have technology to integrate with most all of the software, the practice management systems out there. And there's nothing wrong with processing standalone. Use your current, it doesn't always have to integrate. And there's a lot of reasons, because some of this technology doesn't have all the full capabilities to be able to support a compliant surcharge program.
Support that, or to Chris's point, to support mobile terminals. You know, you have a lot more freedom and a lot more opportunity when you do, decouple the payments from your patient management system.
I think people talk how important and how helpful it is to leverage technology to run the practice, but not at an extra percent. I mean, you could still run the practice with all the cool technology and do a standalone. My opinion is I definitely wouldn't be processing with a technology company that has absolutely no idea of what processing is. Try to call them and ask them a question when you get hit with the chargeback. See if they help you through that process. They're not, because they're automated thought. Everything is technology. I mean, we can't eliminate the human being out of this, Chris. There's still got to be a human being. Technology is great, but there's got to be that human element.
Who is your merchant processor guy or gal?
Hey, listen, if you don't know your merchant guy's first name, you got to know his first name and his last name.
Guy or gal.
All right. Guy or gal, thank you. If you don't know your merchant professional's name, or you don't have them in your phone, and you're calling a 1-800 number, it sounds like you need a good merchant guy.
So how do we do it differently at Crown Card?
Well, with Crown Card, first and foremost, we have no 1-800 numbers. Everybody's working with an individual, because we're moving their money. We're moving 70% of their business. You better know who that person is. So Crown Card Services assigns a couple of individuals to the practice. So you'll know who Virginia is. You'll know who Tim is. You'll know who Joe is. It'll be us working with you, and you're not waiting on hold. You ring, we pick up, we answer. It's a human being. It's not what's your merchant number and tell me your street address and what's the last four of your, and you were 15 minutes in the call and you haven't even helped me yet, so.
Well, one of the things that sold me on you was your story of how from day one you were taught by your mentor to put your cell phone number as a sticker on the back of every terminal.
Yeah, and I've got to get a shout out to Tommy Walker. Thank you. He's probably impacted a lot of people doing that. But to this day, we put our cell phone numbers on our devices so that they can call us at any time, Saturdays, Sundays, after hours. The feeling that we get when a client calls us, that's what motivates us, really. We're waiting for them to call us. We enjoy those phone calls, because being able to help a client out in the time of need is priceless. It's priceless. And we pride ourselves on answering that call.
Absolutely. And if David and I don't know the answer right away, we're going to get someone to call you back that does know the answer. We're going to make sure you are taken care of. No 1-800 numbers. You're calling us directly.
Getting the royal treatment.
Absolutely.
Well, guys,
crown.
I can't thank you enough for joining us on the podcast today and spending the time with us. I really appreciate you. That's all for this episode of the Chris Sands Insights and Strategy Podcast. If you found this to be valuable, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode from anywhere you get your podcasts from. And share it with your like-minded friends or those who you think may benefit from these conversations and advice. We also post full videos and reels of our episodes on my YouTube channel at chrissands.com. That's at CHRISSANDS.com.